Okay, we should be back on the air.
Are we live? Is this a thing?
Fuck it, we'll do it live.
Are we live? Is it live?
I just got an alert from speakers, so...
Hold on. Are we live? The real thing. Check, 1, 2. We're good. Play music.
Oh, well, I mean, what music would you like me to play? Do you have any specific type requests?
Well, it would be the theme song, dummy, since we're on the air.
Well, I thought you might want me to play this.
Let's start the show.
Okay.
Saw it coming.
I'm just kidding.
That's amazing.
That's enough of that.
All right, fine. Hey, everybody, welcome to episode number 210. Finally off the ground here. My name is Gunner. That is Omega BR.
Otherwise known as John Parr's illegitimate son.
Fair enough. Joining us this week is our wonderful technical producer, Mr. I fucked things up in a couple weeks in a row now, Yankum DDS.
Look, it's not me. It's you. And I think it's time for us to spend some time where I don't ever have to look at you again.
I believe it's time to say goodbye. Joining us this week also is, well, I'll introduce him first, because he'll probably conk out in the middle of the show. Net Jester.
Yes, I'm here until my 4G LTE signal goes the way of the dodo. Hello, everybody.
Ew. Hello, Jester. Also joining us this week is WFC Masters.
Hello, all you beautiful people. I just got a haircut.
I just got back from
sounds like you also got auto-tune.
That too.
That's okay.
I just came back from Moe's and I just had, I think it's called a Wrong Doug. Oh, so good. Also, we have Save Us Dog.
Wolf Wolf.
Yes. Yeah, that was for all the furries out there. You're welcome. All right, so let's start with the news. WWE announced last Wednesday that SmackDown will be going live Tuesday nights on USA Network beginning July 19th, and that it would mark the return of the brand split, with both Raw and SmackDown having unique rosters and storylines. Rumor date for the draft is July 11th in Detroit, but it's not a lock at the moment, and neither are the various rumblings about two world champions, the women's champion being exclusive to one brand, and a soft split of top stars appearing on both shows as needed. Current internal belief is that John Cena will headline SmackDown and Roman Reigns will do the same for Raw.
This is a 15-minute time limit. That was supposed to be the 15-minute time limit. But
well, we'll get into it. We'll
have plenty to talk about, honestly.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a minute. Then I'll do the real. I'll do the real first news segment here. It was revealed this week that billionaire co-founder of PayPal, Peter Thiel, secretly bankrolled Hulk Hogan's lawsuit against Gawker. Thiel had held animosity towards Gawker since the website outed him as gay to the public in 2007 with an article titled "Peter Thiel is Totally Gay, People." A judge denied the motion by Gawker for a new trial and to have the verdict dropped or reduced, though they still plan to appeal. Thale told the New York Times that it was less about revenge and more about specific deterrence, saying that Gawker has pioneered a unique and damaging way of getting attention through bullying, despite public interest of lack thereof. So, basically, now Gawker has to post that $50 million bail each for each defendant, basically, which
that's gonna hurt.
Which really is the whole company on their backs.
I didn't know that they had done this to that guy, but that is just 90,000 different kinds of fucking scummy.
They've done this to a lot of people.
Yeah,
it's not
to
just
out
this
somebody
guy.
like that is just awful, and they deserve all the bad things.
All right, I would like to take this opportunity to tell any member of the media who just may happen to be watching or listening into this podcast, generally, you do an okay job, but you're doing a hell of a lot of hand-wringing defending Gawker here, and there's no reason for it. They are the cancer of journalism. They need to go away.
I would like to say, as someone who actually used to be in the media, dear media, you're doing a fucking horrible job, and Gawker is the perfect example of how most of you fuckers are acting.
Mm-hmm. This is why Donald Trump is a Republican nominee. Hashtag politics.
This is what the American media has come to.
This is almost 10 years ago, and this is the headline. Peter Thiel is totally gay, people. What a fucking headline that is.
It's not anybody's business.
No, it's Gawker's business. I don't know what you people are talking about.
Oh, yes,
I mean-
Gawker's business is bullying.
It is their business. It is where their entire blog and their entire fortune and how they got so much fame was from both Gawker and then Wonkette, I believe was what the blog used to be called, which did this shit all the time. They did this constantly. And at some point it was going to come back to bite them in the ass.
I just want to note that, just think about this. This is turning into more of a wrestling angle than I ever imagined. Hogan has a secret billionaire backer in order to help him wage war against someone else.
No,
And at the end
that's
of the
what
day-
you got.
And at the end of the day, he's going to go over. And if I was Vince McMahon, I would hire him back, and then I would put him at the face of the Be a Star campaign.
That could actually work.
I would have what's his face, the guy that ran Gawker, stand in the middle of the ring, and then the old the music for when the acolytes and the druids would come out should play, and then out should walk a man in a robe with his face covered, and then he flips back the robe and it's Peter Thiel, and he says, "It was me all along."
Here's the biggest swerve. At the end of this, you know who's going to buy Gawker? Shane McMahon.
I want it.
Oh, that just made my head hurt.
To be honest, though, WWE could learn something about long-term booking from this entire story. This is 10 years in the making.
Not to mention that if Shane did buy it in the end, he's done a pretty good job running the media company or whatever it was that he owned in the first place. So, Pabst Blue Ribbon.
I just want to point this out before you start that. We still think that Terry Bollea is kind of a piece of shit.
Oh yeah,
as a
no.
person.
Oh, yes,
Hulk Hogan
he's not perfect.
is
He's not
the
perfect.
biggest, most useless piece of shit that ever existed on the face of Earth. If I was given the chance or the choice between sitting in a room with Adolf Hitler or Hulk Hogan, I would choose fucking Hitler. And I'm a Jew.
Jesus.
And the whole point of me bringing that up is we hate Gawker that much more.
Oh,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, Pabst Blue Ribbon. Speaking of things that I hate, Pabst Blue Ribbon tweeted at John Cena about copyright infringement after the design for his new gear was revealed as a parody of the brand's signature red and white stripe and blue ribbon design. Although it seemed to be playful at the time, WWE took down the gear and replaced the design with a more generic oval surrounded by stars. Some fans actually got the shirts with the original design delivered, and those shirts will be worth a lot of money someday.
A good chunk of money.
I'll take one of those and I'll put it right next to my Sin Cara with a penis.
Yes. I bet if you put that shirt up on eBay right now, the Sin Cara dick shirt, I bet you could get over $2 or $3 grand for that shirt easily.
It's like when everybody thought Punk was going to leave in Chicago, and he debuted that Best in the World, the classic Best in the World shirt, and it was one night only, and they were legitimately going for like $200 or $300 on eBay, and then like a week later he re-signed and they re-released it, and it just plummeted.
Yo, people made some money from that. Not gonna lie.
Was that shirt really that like infringing on Pabst Blue Ribbon?
Yes, absolutely.
I
Gives a
don't
fuck.
It really was.
Absolutely.
I mean, it looked exactly like it, but there are 1,000 Pabst Blue Ribbon parody shirts out there.
Right, but none put out there by $1 million corporation who they can actually take to court.
True.
Honestly, I think it's less that PBR was really serious, and more that WWE didn't want to take the chance. Although I have heard in the past that PBR goes after that kind of thing. So
PBR is very protective of its copyright. It's
Well, I
funny
mean,
because
yeah.
they don't advertise really at all, but they're extremely protective of their brand.
Well,
And you can't
sure,
blame them.
because if anybody can use that kind of like stuff with their brand or whatever, then the hipsters might not think that Pabst Blue Ribbon is cool anymore and stop drinking it. Because the only people that drink Pabst Blue Ribbon are hipsters and rednecks. Anybody want to have a go at me on that one?
Well, I guess I'm a redneck, man.
Yep.
My response to this is this. Why didn't they just work out a sponsorship deal?
Because it's
PBR doesn't do sponsorships.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
That's
So
exactly.
that's why-
They don't do advertising. They don't do sponsorships. They never have, and they never will. That's why hipsters love them so much.
Right.
Because they're totally not corporate.
Okay. Well, then there's your answer to. Then there's your answer to why they would hit WWE with a cease and desist. That's
They should have done a
the
Red
answer.
Bull parody shirt. Those fuckers would have sponsored him for the next 20 years.
Yep.
or even Budweiser. I think at least Budweiser probably wouldn't have cared.
Speaking of money grubbing, Vince McMahon was deposed in the lawsuit by former WWE star Vito LaGrasso and developmental talent Evan Singleton, with Stephanie McMahon and Triple H set to be disposed next week. So I think that's the concussion one.
Well, let's just hope that works out fine, really.
Dude, all I just remember Vito from is the dress. That gimmick was fucking hilarious.
I remember Vito from like really late WCW and the hardcore division. That's the only thing I remember him from.
That too.
Oh, yeah, he was great there.
Former ROH owner Kerry Silkin declared that he would confront Ric Flair at a signing in Bethlehem, PA, to collect the $41,000 he's owed from his stint as ROH ambassador in 2010. Oh man, I saw Kerry getting all fired up on this on Facebook too. This is gonna be great.
He's going to confront Ric Flair.
You ever been to so Memorial Day was this past weekend.
Yep.
And you know how you went to your family's barbecue type thing, and you had your uncle and your father like talking about stuff and blah blah blah. Now imagine if they got into a fist fight, and now imagine if your uncle and your dad were Ric Flair and Kerry Silkin. Money, pure money. This is gonna be great.
I think I would lock my bedroom door at night.
Well, I'm
already?
glad you guys had all that fun. I got staples taken out of my leg this weekend.
Oof.
I just
You fell into a Staples store?
No, but that would
he
be my luck
slipped,
as well.
fell, and the staples went up his butt.
See, the only
Look,
person that
here's the
talks
thing.
about things that goes up people's butts is Yanko.
Look,
So
here's
it's-
the thing.
That's
What the fuck? Ric Flair is old as fuck. He doesn't know where he is half the time. I'm pretty sure he's halfway to deaf and a quarter of the way to blind.
And he's probably
Beating
drunk.
someone like that up, even over $41,000. Like, I get it. That's a lot of fucking money. But Jesus Christ, like, you're not going to beat $41,000 out of the guy.
No, but you're going to have a fun
He's gonna
YouTube
try.
competition.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, he's warned him about 2 months in advance. Second of all, he's either expecting him to cut a check there or give him his Hall of Fame ring or something. But it's
Right.
it's less about the money and more about just the attention, I think.
And the fact that he slapped him in the face. So, and this is like a 5-year-old feud at this point. I mean, goddamn. Ric Flair was in ROH for like 2 weeks and for like 2 seconds, like way back when, but now it just doesn't fucking matter in my opinion. He can go collect his money and we can see the funny YouTube video and we'll talk about it next week. South Florida officials have submitted a bid to host WrestleMania within the next 3 years as currently unnamed Miami Dolphins Stadium. Okay.
They can fuck off until Minnesota gets one. I assume they won't do the one right after Orlando in Miami. It'll be 2 to 3 years later.
Yeah, of course. I would imagine that they would do that. I was hoping actually New Orleans would get one somewhere around the 36, 37 mark because that was 30 was a great town for that. And the Superdome was a pretty epic experience to watch. So we had it on the West Coast this year.
Well, I think what's going to end up happening is as the NFL keeps building these, well, not so much the NFL, but the towns that the billionaires convince build these new stadiums. That's where it's going to be held. Like I can see it happening in the new Rams stadium in a year or two.
That'd be 2019 is when that's set to be done with. So 2019 or after.
Okay, well there you go then. I think who else is getting a new one?
Well, part of the reason why Miami is putting in this big bid, and Orlando did the same thing, is both their stadiums underwent pretty big renovations. Miami's is much, much bigger than Orlando's, so they're going to have a whole roof over their stadium now and like 4 giant screens in every corner.
And everybody's just taking stuff from Jerry World, basically, and copying it.
Yeah, and so Los Angeles will open up a new stadium in 2019, and Mania will be there shortly after that.
Probably 2020.
Yeah, something like that. And Atlanta's going to have their brand new spanking stadium, like, next year, I want to say.
Yeah, I was going to say Atlanta because I know they got one of the new Super Bowls here in the next 2 or 3 years.
So basically, wherever you're going to see a Super Bowl or a new stadium is where you're probably going to end up seeing WrestleMania the next year. So that new Viking Stadium looks pretty nice for the year after next.
One can only hope.
Just saying.
It's never happened before, and this would be the best time for it. So we'll see.
Didn't the Redskins propose a new stadium with a moat?
Yeah, that's
really?
years and years and years away from happening.
Yeah. There's a moat around the thing, and they've got like RG3 kayaking in the promotional still.
Why?
Well, that's a sinking ship. Speaking of things that can actually float, Cody Rhodes posted a list of Twitter opponents he'd like to face, including Adam Cole, Dalton Castle, Chris Hero, Kurt Angle, which is happening, the Young Bucks, and Shibata. Rhodes will face Kurt Angle at Wrestling Under the Stars on August 27th in Fingers Falls, New York. Wade Barrett also posted a list in the same style, but his only had a single name. Papa Shango.
God damn it! I
that's a
fucking
good
love
one.
Wade Barrett so much.
I want to see it. I bet it'd be a good match.
It'd be in GFW, and it would be whatchamacallit. It would be great. It would be 2 minutes of Wade Barrett bumping, and then him taking like a Shango splash or something, and then eating a pin. All right, and finally, and this is what I'm going to bleed this into the 15-minute time limit. So just ring a bell.
Well,
I know we have one, but I want to talk about this.
but I mean, the timer is going to go off.
You know what? We're going to talk about the brand split, and that's just an open topic anyway.
Okay. Well, just for the record, before anybody else tries to claim it, the following match to be discussed is my what to watch this week in wrestling. So, what the fuck?
Yeah, that's what I'm about to ask you.
There we go.
More fucked up than the meme of the gorilla giving the little girl the finger, saying, "Get the fuck out of here before you get me shot." It's our 15-minute time limit. A bout between Ricochet and Will Ospreay for New Japan's Best of the Super Juniors, Night 6, gained notoriety this week after Vader criticized the match based on a gift that he saw, calling it a blatant acrobatics with no story. Ricochet responded by calling pro wrestling art that can be expressed in any number of ways, and Ospreay responded by doing a Vader bomb the next night. New Japan has posted the entire match on YouTube. Okay, so
Dude,
That Vader bomb was so fucking great.
it was hilarious. So a couple of things about this. In my opinion, it was a good match. It was a really good match.
It was a match.
Is there anyone that does not think it was a good match? Like,
Yes.
like no, I'm not talking about like the people who've been super critical, but I think the general
Besides
consensus has
Vader.
been that it's a pretty damn good match.
I mean, besides like Vader and like, obviously Cornette's having a heart attack over it and that kind of thing. I in general, I think that people found it to be a really good match. Meltzer found it to be a good match, I thought.
How many stars did it get?
I'm not sure off the top of my head.
I think 3.5. Because that was a really, really good match. Like, I enjoyed the fuck out of it, and I had no idea what the story surrounding the match was.
I mean, it had its traditional spots in it. I mean, there was an international, and there was a double down, and then there was the babyface build, and then the swerve to the win. I mean, it told a story. I followed it. I was able to follow it. Damn it, and I'm not that good at it.
I looked at that match, and it was super fast paced, but what I saw it as is like two martial artists going counter for counter with each other. Two guys who have a super similar skill set, like just predicting how each other is going to move.
So in that case, we saw a semi-battle of Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris in this.
Yes, that's basically it. You have to apply the certain rules, in my opinion, to the certain matches, in general. So, for example, if you're watching a BJW match and you're expecting, a technical prowess, something that would look more like it was on World of Wrestling, you'd be sadly disappointed because all you'd see is a couple of guys bleeding all over the place and going through light tubes. I mean, some people really enjoy that, and they think that that's wrestling. And that's okay, because it is wrestling. I mean, it's a loose term, and that fits it. This falls into the same category. Meltzer made a good point a while back. He said that basically, some people were calling RVD Jerry Lynn too much of a spot fest 15 years ago in ECW. I agree with that to an extent. I mean, obviously, there's some excessiveness to it, and I believe that in this match in particular, that there was some excessiveness to it. But otherwise, it was a damn good match.
That armbar spot at the beginning, that was what sold me.
I mean, did you, Omega, did you watch it? Oh, Mega VR.
I didn't. I haven't seen the whole match. I've seen kind of clips of it, and I think I saw the GIF that I think it was the right one that probably Vader saw. I think there's something to be said about it. I think a lot of older guys, even Steve Austin, quite often these days, are critical about selling the match, telling the story, etc. And I think there's a fair point that when you're doing a sequence of spots that's fairly obviously choreographed to an extent, that you lose some of that kind of fervor, that storytelling. But that being said, I mean, I think this is kind of one of those things that just kind of went viral for no reason. I mean, why does anything go viral? Vader happened to see the GIF, whatever, and he happened to make a comment on Twitter, which that's what Twitter's for, is making spur of the moment comments, and to my knowledge, he actually kind of took it back. He watched the match, and then he kind of took it back. And I mean, I always find it kind of funny when they try to say what wrestling should be, or it's kind of like how wrestling itself is really a big spectacle. It's really a big con in a lot of ways. So if a guy's punching another guy and knocking him out from it, or if two guys are leaping off the top rope 4 times in a minute, fast as can be, almost like superheroes, then what's the difference really? I mean, and plus the fact that you have to look at the context too. It's Best of the Super Juniors. This is what they're known for. You know what I mean? This isn't the main event of a pay-per-view where the championship's on the line or whatever. I mean, it's a showcase for their ability more so than a really dynamic story, that has all this backstory and this and that. You know what I mean?
Like, to me, it incorporated so much of Lucha Libre, especially in a lot of the parts, that some of these older guys, when they were around, the styles didn't really cross borders nearly as much as they do now. And now there's such a blend of all these different types of wrestling that it's not really probably recognizable to them, too. And I also want to say this. The GIF that was floating around that everybody was freaking out about, that was like one of the very beginning spots of the entire match. It's not like they were 20 minutes in and then they started flipping around. Well, I mean, they were flipping around like crazy 20 minutes in, but they didn't do that spot way late into the match. It was the classic stare down, grapple. Both guys look great. Then they stare down again and the crowd goes crazy for it. With flips. A lot of flips.
Would be shit, yo. And I just want to say that I think it's the progression of wrestling right now. We seem to be molding more towards the athlete as opposed to the big man or, the strong guy that Vince likes. I think that we're moving more towards the people that can work. The people that were 10 years before their time, Jericho, Benoit, or Angle, Eddie, all the SmackDown 6 basically. They would, if they were to be they were the ones to pave the way for this style of wrestling to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think that this is what you're seeing. That evolution is what you're seeing now. I think that the wrestling style in the WWE came from them. And I believe that the reason why you see more people from NXT and the rest and WWE looking at more independent talents now is because of CM Punk. And I think that those are one and the same.
Well, I would say athletics in general, because WWE has a handful of big guys who are very athletic, such as Apollo Crews, who's doing backflips and everything in the ring, and Rusev even, who's very light on his feet for his weight, and arguably even a guy like Roman Reigns, who is your pretty classic big guy, but as we said last week, managed to keep up with AJ Styles. So I think there's a big back in the day, wrestling was really about mat work and holds and power, whereas today it's more about spectacle than it has ever been before, and so I think you kind of see a combination of the two. If in the '90s, people like the Hardys and everybody kind of exemplifying that style of high risk, high flying, etc.
See, to me, it's just all about who's in the match. If Ricochet is in the match, I want to see him do some flips, because he does that shit really, really well. If it's a dude like Zack Sabre Jr. in the match, I want to see him grapple and mat wrestle and spin around a dude and just take him down with an armbar and shit like that, because he's really good at that. It's playing to people's strengths, and when you get two dudes who can flip around, go out there and steal the show by just doing some crazy shit. This is not unlike what the Hardy Boys used to do in their TLC matches, where they would climb to the highest spot and just jump the fuck off because it would steal the show. I'm sure they thought those ladder matches were an abomination to wrestling too, and now they're as much a part of the fabric of the sport as anything else.
Well, like I said, at least in Vader's case, I believe he took it back, and it's not really. Like I said, I think it's just another one of those stupid Twitter things where somebody had a thought and everybody kind of jumped on it. And, the match itself, it probably did more good than anything, because now everybody knows who those two guys are. I know most people knew Ricochet, but, Ospreay's kind of a rising star, so a lot of people know him now.
Right. All right, let's move on from this, and we'll go on to the brand split here. So, brand split's real. Brand split's happening. Roman Reigns leading up on Raw, and John Cena leading up on SmackDown. Cena on SmackDown makes sense, so that the SmackDown rating can get boosted. Fun fact, the SmackDown rating, ever since this podcast started back in 2010, has stayed between 1.6 and 2.0 this entire time. But whatchamacallit, Raw has gone from 4.0s to 2.8s.
I think a lot of it has to do with just the fact that it is taped and the time period. Maybe SmackDown will start getting 2.8s, and then, well, there you go. That's part of the reason they're doing this, is because USA Network hasn't been too happy with the SmackDown ratings. They came to the conclusion with WWE that going live would be a good idea. It's something that's been teased for years and years. The fact that I probably would have preferred that SmackDown just went live and they kept the rosters the same, and they would have that pressure because SmackDown was live to make it important, because every time they've tried to do it in the past, really 10 plus years at this point, they just forget about it and put it on the back burner and, just say, well, Raw's the flagship show. And I think that's kind of where we're at in terms of, well, now you have the brand split and now you have the writers split. Now the writers will have a little bit more power because they have, more of a containment to work with. I think, I don't want to go on a rant here, but I think the reason the brand split was so bad previously is because they focused too much on the aspect of the split. They focused too much on Bischoff versus Stephanie. They focused too much on who was champion where. They focused too much on, well, we're going to do Raw. Unforgiven's going to be a Raw show, but No Mercy's going to be a SmackDown show. And then, you go to No Mercy, and the main event is like King Booker versus The Undertaker, and the undercard is just, your average, what we would have on Superstars now. Velocity pay-per-view, basically. And my ultimate sort of feeling on this is a good idea in the short term, iffy idea on the long term. The main thing is they have to commit. They have to commit to SmackDown to making it a good show, and putting Cena on the brand isn't the only thing that they can do, because
Okay, so you bring up a good point. Do you think that they learned from the last time what to do and what not to do for their brand split?
I really can't say until I see it in action, because I think they're in such a unique place right now than they ever have been before, what with NXT and everything, and signing all these known guys instead of gym rats and everything. That I think they need to. The thing that worries me, honestly, is that on Raw, the announcers were already talking about tag teams being split up, like the New Day. That worries me because I feel like those decisions were always kind of made just to do them. Like when the Dudleys got split up, and then Bubba does his hardcore gimmick, Devon does his preacher gimmick, and neither one is exceedingly very good. I think they have to have it figured out to the letter if they're going to do this. I think they need to know who's going to be champion where. If there's going to be, I think 2 world champions is a bad idea. I hope they don't do that. In fact, I would almost wish that every champion could just appear on both shows, and that would be the added incentive almost to be a champion. I think it's a bad idea to have the women on one brand only, although I will say that presents an interesting conundrum because, let's say you have Charlotte and Natalya and whoever else on Raw, and then you have Alicia Fox and Sasha Banks and whoever on SmackDown. I mean...
Hey, wait a minute. What are you trying to say there?
No. And
until Alicia Fox draws, the SmackDown ratings are going to go up because she's awesome.
And Becky Lynch on SmackDown, and Asuka on SmackDown, and the way I kind of look at it is, I just went to a house show a couple weeks ago, and there were 2 house shows running that night. There was one in my town and one up north. And on my show, we had Roman Reigns. We would have had AJ Styles, except they were, healing him up for Extreme Rules. We had Big Cass and the Dudleys. We had Jericho. We had Owens and Zayn. They had a match. And then the other show, they had Dean Ambrose, the Wyatt family, minus Bray Wyatt, and Sasha Banks. We had Charlotte on our show, and Natalya, but on their show they had Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch. And they had the Vaudevillains, and they had the New Day on their show. Basically what I'm saying is, our show, when I looked at the 2 cards on both shows, our show had like all the big name people, everybody you would want to see, and then their show had the New Day and Ambrose and Sasha, and then the rest was sort of like, the first and second hour of Raw between
social outcasts and
the social outcasts were on their show too.
I can't be the only one that has heard you describe the second card, the other card that you didn't get to go to, and thought, man, that sounds way better than the first card.
Well, it's a matter of opinion, but what I'm getting at is one show clearly had all the bigger names, and the other show had some big names and then kind of the undercard, you know what I mean? And that's really what Raw and SmackDown have always been.
Well, especially toward the end of the brand split, at the very end of it, when Raw was just so clearly the better show, like they're going to have to do everything they possibly can to make SmackDown seem at the same level again. And to me, I don't know, having only one world champion is going to be tough in order to keep SmackDown at that level.
I don't think so. I think what you do is you don't have the champion be on just one show.
Ideally speaking, this is what's going to happen. You're going to have the WWE champ float between both shows. The top belt on both shows will be either the U.S. belt or the Intercontinental belt, depending on what show you want to go with. I traditionally see it as IC on Raw and US on SmackDown. I think it works better that way. You take one of the divisions and you put it on one brand, and you take another division and you put it on the other brand. I think that those champions should still float too. So you'll have a couple women on SmackDown and a couple women on Raw, but predominantly, all the women would be on Raw or something like that.
So you would put the tag team division on one show?
I'd put some of the tag team division on one show and some of the tag team division on the other. I think that the women of the tag division is too big. Right, and then you'd have a challenger from each, at one point or another. So it creates more number one contender kind of things.
Well, see, that's the other thing about it is, let's say there is one world champion. Does he have challengers on both shows?
Yes.
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 Is he? But what I mean is, at the same time. I mean, that's when does he have let's say it's Roman Reigns. Is Roman Reigns going to have Rollins on Raw and Styles on SmackDown? I mean, is it?
Maybe. Here's how I would do it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it used to be, if I remember correctly, that the holder of the United States Championship, after losing, got a shot at the World Championship in WCW. Basically, the U.S. Yeah, so you do that, and that does two things. One, it gives people who might not traditionally have a reason to shoot for what has for a long time seemed like a mid-card title. But say someone like Randy Orton, if Randy Orton knows that winning the U.S. title gives him a shot at the the WWE title, then that title means something for him to go get it. Or the IC title for Rollins on and then if you get in a situation where, somehow the U.S. and IC title lose at the same time, then maybe they fight it out, or it's a three-way or something.
Right, and the same people that would be, as you would, excuse me, the same people that you would put up for the U.S. belt and for the Intercontinental belt are the same people that are challenging for the World belt, which keeps those titles way up.
And if you want to have your mid-card titles, I'm sorry, but I can never pass up an opportunity to say the television title. The television title is a cool thing. We should have that back. And just think, with brand split, flipping back and forth between to see, is so-and-so going to keep his TV title this week? That sounds cool to me, because you don't know, he doesn't show up on Raw. Shit, I got to watch SmackDown to see if he loses this thing now.
It sounds a lot like the very, very beginnings of the first brand split in 2002, when they had, I think it was the Intercontinental title was on SmackDown for a while, and then there was a big fight, and then someone won it over to Raw, and the Raw had the Euro title and the Hardcore title. But here's the difference between now and 2002. In 2002, they had so much talent that there were legitimately 50 to 60 people on the roster for each show.
So cut the NXT roster in half, you bring them up.
Even then, you're still talking about, at most, 30 to 40. And they've lost a lot of guys who would have benefited greatly from a brand split. Cody Rhodes being number one with a bullet.
Oh, yeah.
Barrett as well.
Right now.
And Sandow, too. They lost a lot of talent that would have done great things with the brand split. And they can only bring up so many, because they're going to run NXT, too. NXT is not going anywhere.
Well, ultimately, I think what we're saying here is that brand split or no, a lot of the meat of this thing is going to be in the undercard, in NXT, if they decide to, bring up a lot of those people to help fill out the rosters, and guys that we have lost, like Rhodes and such. Whereas the main event situation, that's where it's really concerning, because then that's where it starts to get into, well, do we have two world champions? Well, is, Roman Reigns still the man if he's only on Raw? Is And the thing that worries me, and I think it's almost the reason they did this,
Well,
is because it's going to be Shane versus Stephanie, and I'm not looking forward to that at all.
Well, part of the reason I want two world champions in the first place is because having two world champions in the past made it a lot easier for people to climb the ladder and get some decent pushes. Like, there's no way Dolph Ziggler ever would have been a world champion without two world titles. And Mark Henry is another guy who I could very much say the same thing about. I just think it's so much easier to make new stars when they're competing for a world title. Whether or not it's the top belt in the company doesn't mean anything.
I think you can make the two titles that are currently there that aren't the World Heavyweight Championship or world titles mean that much. I mean, they used to. Whenever Macho Man held the IC title, it meant nearly as much as when Hogan held the World Heavyweight title.
Occam's razor, ladies and gents. Occam's razor. I mean, that's the whole that's the whole answer to this booking solution. And if they fuck it up any more than they do right now, I wouldn't be surprised, because God damn it, Vince McMahon, not true.
Wait, so what is the most obvious answer to that?
Well, the thing that we were bringing up, elevate the mid card titles, keep the the heavyweight title floating, the women's title floating, and the tag titles floating.
Yeah, because the worst thing they did to the tag division was split it. That was just awful. They didn't even have enough of a tag division for one set of tag titles, let alone two at the time. And it wasn't good at all.
That's when you got shit like HBK and John Cena winning the titles, and the Spirit Squad being the champs forever. And
we don't want that shit. We don't need that shit. Just elevate the two titles.
Although it did give us Lundrick as nearly year-long tag champs, so there's good and bad to both of it.
All right, 15 seconds, Omega.
All right, the main thing, in conclusion, the only reason you should be excited about this is because SmackDown actually is live. That's the smoking gun. That is the pressure to actually make that show important, and whoever's on it. So,
I just want to add one quick thing, is that I would bet money USA was pushing to make SmackDown live pretty much since they got it.
Probably. Yep. All right, I'm hungry.
I want ice cream. I have an ice cream place down the street from me. It has the best soft serve. Like, I had raspberry soft serve the other day.
Ooh.
Is that what they're calling it these days?
Yes! I got a hooker. All right. Well, we don't have time or money for craft ice cream places because we don't get paid for this, and it actually costs us money to do it. So we're just going to go to the
drive-through. Dairy Queen drive-through. All right, with the ratings. Let me see here. WFC Masters, are you still around and kicking? Yes, maybe no. I'll take that as a no. Dog, that's going to be you then.
All right, and for the ratings, Impact drew 359,000 viewers. That's actually up 15% from the 311,000 viewers from last week. Never thought I'd read that. Impact ratings going up. Probably won't last. And then SmackDown drew 2,112,000 viewers. That is down from last week where they drew 2.295 million, just shy of 3 million viewers, or 2.3 million viewers last week, excuse me. And then Raw's ratings were delayed because yesterday was Memorial Day. And if you unpatriotic fucks did not celebrate, then suck it.
Fun fact, by the way, they went up against Game 7 of the NBA Western Conference Finals, which some people would call the actual finals. I know LeBron would have a word to say about that, but and the first game of the Stanley Cup. So there you go. Expect that Raw rating to get fucking buried.
It's going to be not great. I don't. If it may be SmackDown levels, it may be damn close.
All right. With the birthdays, WFC Masters. Let's see if he actually is here.
Hello?
All right, buddy. Read off the birthdays for me.
Oh, God, is it actually working?
Yes, it's working.
Jesus, okay.
Well, read the goddamn birthdays.
Today on birthdays, well, this week I should say, June 1st, celebrating their birthdays, Scoot Andros, Big Billy Busick, Ian Rodden, and James Storm. On the 2nd, we have Chessman, Lex Luger, The Total Package, Velvet Sky, and AJ, The Gay Community Styles. On the 4th, we have Mikey Ripwreck. On the 5th, Supernova. On the 6th, Conan, Drew Galloway, and ODB are celebrating. And on the 7th, Mick, choose your gimmick here, Foley. And that is birthdays for this week.
Fun fact, I learned that ODB not only has a hot sauce, barbecue sauce thing that's in every Pepper Palace around the country, but she lives in an Airstream for 6 months out of the year.
That doesn't surprise me.
That's pretty cool, actually. Holy shit.
Yeah, remember she was sleeping in it, and a drunk driver crashed right into it.
Let's see.
Yep. I wasn't sure what she had been up to since leaving TNA, and that's what she's been doing these days. And I think she might be still doing things for that bar up in Minneapolis. Dog, you're gonna have to go check that out.
I have no clue whatsoever, but I know she's from this area, so... And that sounds about like what OBDB would be up to these days.
Yep, when she comes back in from her 6 months sabbatical, you're totally going to go find her and give us a bumper. But for now, and now it is time for This Week in Wrestling with Omega BR.
Yes, this weekend, wrestling history.
Mm-hmm.
Circa 19.
This week in wrestling history, nothing happened.
Circa 1937, where Red Berry defeats Hugh Nichols to win the World Light Heavyweight title in Tulsa, Oklahoma, ending Nichols' third reign. Jump to 1940, where Jules Lawrence defeats Gil Knudsen for the Midwest Wrestling Association World Junior Heavyweight title in Columbus, Ohio. And in 1944, El Santo wins his third Mexican national middleweight title in Mexico City, Mexico, defeating Tuffy Truesdale in a tournament final. Tarzan Lopez had won the title from Santo on April 1st, but it was vacated on the 8th because Lopez was already world middleweight champion. And that was This Week in Wrestling History.
Happy trails to Tony Schiavone, who revealed he's training to become a Starbucks barista due to their great benefits and to stay busy. Glad to see he doesn't actually need the money.
The one person who actually comes into our little recording studio and cares about our show for some reason, Vassar, who's not even here. Anyway, her name is Courtney, and she said that Kevin Owens debuted 1 year ago today, which is pretty important in wrestling history, at least as far as WWE goes, I guess, I would think.
Mm-hmm. And happy trails to the happy couple of Paige and Alberto Del Rio, as this week, Paige got a small tattoo on her finger in Vegas that reads, Papi.
But Paige, no, why?
Poppy!
Paige!
Yo,
Probably more like, Oi, Poppy!
That was awful.
That was so bad.
God.
That was so awful. All right, I'm
Oh
sorry.
my god. Oh my god.
This happened to me. I made my mistakes. Got nowhere to run. The night goes on.
No, this is awful.
Oh, Jesus. And then,
I'm not British. I don't know what to say. I'm red-blooded American.
See what happens when you're that awful? You summon that jester back.
I memed hard enough that it was worth it.
All they need is Dolph Ziggler with his spray-on tan for a threesome, and you'll have
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh! Oh!
You'll have Neapolitan.
Oh, God!
God damn it.
That's in the show! No, God!
You know,
Great, you yank him into convulsions, fearless leader.
Jesus. What to watch this week in Wrestling Dunner?
Will Ospreay versus Ricochet from...
Fuck you! Fuck you! Get out! No! Fuck you! You don't get to pick that one. No.
And there he goes.
Anybody else? Does anybody else want to pick fucking the match that I picked? Let's move along.
You're killing him.
Net
You're killing him,
Jester, what
Smalls.
should we watch this week in wrestling?
I'm not going to pick something from this past week, but coming up, Big Time Wrestling's having another super indie show, and this time it's going to headline Tommy Dreamer and Mick Foley. So that's
That
going to
sounds
happen.
cool.
That's going to happen this week in Montana. They're going to
Okay,
tour
yeah,
3
right.
different cities. So if you're in Montana, watch that stuff.
Net Jester dialing in from a potato in Montana. Omega BR, what should we watch this week in wrestling? Oh!
Good. You should watch Taboo Tuesday, Batista versus Jonathan Coachman, because that was the time that Coachman, for some explicable reason, recruited Goldust and none other than Vader to be by his side. And as you recall, Vader, as he was getting out of the ring, he completely fell on his rear and cursed on the air. So.
Okay. I don't know why you would subject us to that, but Stainless Dog! What should we watch this week in wrestling?
You should watch Lucha Underground. The trios titles on the line. Got Rey Mysterio and Prince Puma, along with Dragon Azteca Jr., and they defend the titles against the trio, and this is one hell of a team of PJ Black, formerly Justin Gabriel, Jack Evans, and Johnny Mundo. There's air guitar. It's amazing.
All right, and WFC Masters, what should we watch this week in wrestling?
Thank you for our fan for pointing out that Kevin Owens debuted 1 year ago to this very day. So I will absolutely recommend you watch Kevin Owens versus John Cena at Elimination Chamber 2015. It's pretty great.
And I'm going to say the Kennel from Hell match.
You could pick the one that you wanted to pick.
Well, no, because you already picked it. So I'm going to
no,
pick
no,
something
it's
awful
fine.
just to spite you.
No.
Kennel
I'm
from
gonna
Hell
pick
match. Watch dogs fuck each other and shit all over the place because that's what Gunner does to the show.
No, I'm actually going to suggest the Stone Cold versus Bret Hart WrestleMania 13 match. Only if you look for it on Dailymotion, you can find it with Austin's commentary that he did for his podcast. It's all synced up and it works really well. And I would totally recommend you finding that, checking it
that
out.
sounds cool. All right, well then I'm gonna go with the
Ospreay. Yeah.
Ospreay and Ricochet match.
If you haven't seen
the match.
O'Shea versus Ospreay, you need to watch that match. And I can't believe there'd be anyone listening to this who hasn't.
All right, well that does it for this week.
Yay.
We've got to discuss what we're going to do about this brand split thing because if they're going to be airing on Tuesday nights, we can't
Okay,
compete with them.
I want myself, Gunner, Save Us Dog, Vassar, WFC Masters, the Croc,
No.
the mobile bot, Unaki, and then on the other brand, everybody else who's on this show.
Okay, you just left me with Netchester. So you
You also
can't.
have Batista's dick, though. That's
Okay,
another
I
draft
do
pick.
have Batista's dick.
He's literally like Batista in the draft in like 2006 when he was the only thing on SmackDown.
Here's the thing. Go fuck yourself. And also, yeah, good luck with that show because I'm going to have Netchester on my show, and it's going to be awesome.
Well, thank you for the
Shut
vote of
your robot and
confidence.
get out, you son of a bitch. All right, that does it for this week. Smark Snark podcast for Gunner, Omega VR, Save Us Dog, and WFC Masters. I want to say we wish you well in all your past, present, and future endeavors.
iTunes, like, subscribe. Get the fuck out of here.
Hey, oh yeah. If you need to call us,
See, this is why I do the end. This is why I do the end.
666. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. Just search Smark Snark. We're not hard to find. You can email us at contact smarksnark@gmail.com or booking at smarksnark.com. If you're involved in the business somehow I doubt that people that are in the business listen to this show, though, solely because Netchester exists. And he is proof that there is no God and that good things do not happen.
I wouldn't exactly go that far. I mean, whatchamacallit.
Are you going to tell me that Netchester
Gawker's
is
still a
not...
Gawker's still a thing.
Netchester is the argument for atheism. Like, if people were like, why are you an atheist? And somebody said, Netchester.
We got it.
Like,
Thank you.
Totally.
Did not need to be explained.
We're
Good
done.
night.
Thanks for listening.
Good night, Wappinger Falls.